For today's lesson, I chose the little redheaded girl. I'm definitely pleased with the progress I've made since yesterday. I've noticed that my rendition looks older than the photo that I was drawing from. I think it's because of the larger eyes, but maybe then I didn't get the nose as close to the eyes as I should have. I drew for the same 40 minutes I did yesterday. I'm looking forward to the live critiques. So let's get those images open so we can compare and discuss. So one thing that we can talk about is, in general, our children. Children, if you want them to appear younger, it's really important to use as soft transitions, as many soft transitions as you can. Anything that creates lines or edges ages a face. So everywhere where you can avoid using a line will help prevent a sense of age. So here on her face, there are only a few places I would put lines if I were drawing this. So I'm not doing a great job of following them all, but that's kind of where I'd have some lines. Definitely the top part of her eye. I wouldn't even have a line on the bottom, or if I do, it would be super, super, super light. There's a crease kind of here, and there's a clear crease here. This is a soft shadow transition. I would not use lines under her eyes. And then, there's kind of a clear edge to her lip on the top. So I think those are the only places on her face that I would use any line work. Everywhere else, I'd be using soft transitions. So there's something I talk about inside a lot of my programs is this notion of hard and soft edges. So a hard edge is where you kind of draw up to an area and it's very clearly this like one lined edge. It's almost like this hard outline that we draw up to, though it can all have the same shade. A soft edge is something like, look at her neck, right? And how it moves from light to dark. There's no clear edge that changes things from light to dark. It's a soft transition where blending is important to create those soft transitions. So you can, fill kind of the area that seems really dark first, and then have an area with a lighter shade value that you've placed. And then in between with your pencil, you kind of go over the two, and that can help create soft transitions. You can use your eraser and dab at it, kind of dab at an area to pick up light and create soft transitions. And you can also use a blending stomp or a tortillon to do that as well. So that's kind of one thing to think about with children. The other thing I would say is her face is very square. She's got beautiful wide kind of cheeks and chin, right? So she's very square. And this young lady looks almost more preteen to me. And it's because I think in part her face is longer. She's got a much longer looking face. So what we could do if we're concerned with the capturing of likeness here more is I would spend more time looking at kind of her cheeks. So where do they stop and start in relation to the rest of the image, right? So she takes up kind of a third. So you could use the whole image as a point of reference, right? And if we know that that's what we're doing, it looks like that's where you cropped her, right? So then if that's the case, well, actually you didn't crop her that tight. Let's draw the line kind of where it looks like you cropped her. I'm freehanding on a digital tablet, so don't mind my squiggly lines, okay? So it kind of looks like we're moving from here. So what's nice is you can use the space around her to help draw and lay out space. It looks like you did. That looks pretty accurate. Kind of the space above her head and around her looks really nice. So then here, look at this, right? We could see how much of her shoulder does or doesn't show. So that also might have aged her, as making her look like she has broader shoulders. She's bigger than she is, and where the hair fits. And then the length of her neck is shorter. Look at her chin in relation to her neck, where it starts and stops. Her chin almost starts right where her neck intersects. So all of this has lengthened her. And I think that is what, like, this might be kind of, if she was preteen or a little older, what she might start to look like because of that. Okay. So we can see the difference here in the neck right away. And that reference might have shifted everything. If we just had a shorter neck, that might have, because I do feel like the angle here of the chin and the cheek look pretty accurate. Her eyes are much bigger. I think that's a stylized choice that Lynne makes. Her eyes actually kind of start and stop here in her image. So that would be a consideration to make, if that's not something Lynne wanted to do in her work. Here's an example too in Lynn's piece is she does use a lot of line work, and I think that's a stylized choice she makes. So it changes the way we read the figure in the face, and it does give it a level of abstraction. That's not a bad thing, right? It's just I want to make sure you all make those conscious choices in your art. In your art, those are qualities you like in the portraits that you're doing, and that you then embrace that. Um, here, kind of we have an outline under the bottom of her eye, and then the shadow underneath almost looks a bit more like an outline. I think some of those same soft transitions that Lynn's used above the eye would be lovely underneath and also help her look a little bit younger. Anywhere you can avoid line work in a portrait of a child is going to really help. I like the braid. I like how you conveyed it. I really have that feeling of her hair being braided, even though the line work's pretty simple, which is really nice. Kind of observe the size of the irises and how much white space. So you can kind of look in her eye and look at the shape created by the white space of her eye to help place her irises. That can be one way to do things. And here you can almost not see her eyebrows at all, right? So again, a lot of people would like draw eyebrows in, not really thinking about how her eyebrows barely show. So why would we draw them if they're not there? Why wouldn't we just draw the shadows that we see and fill them in? And that helps show where her brow is.